Hey everybody, it's Doug here, Doug Mr. Guy on Board Game Geek, bringing you the next playthrough on my channel. And this is going to be a doozy, it's going to be a whopper of a playthrough, guys, because this game is unbelievably big. And I think I'm going to run it in the same way that I'm going to be, and I'm still running my Kingdom Death Monster scenario, where I'm going to do it in seasons. I had filmed season 1 of Kingdom Death Monster. We got through that. Now I'm going to do season 1 of Gloomhaven. And I'm going to tell you, in this particular video, there will not be any specific spoilers, other than seeing how the game is set up. But going forward, this series, and I'll say it at the beginning of every series in case someone pops in new, will be chock full of spoilers because I'm going to be playing the campaign. And I'll be doing that with, I decided on, I was going to go with 2 characters. I said, no, I want to give you guys as much exposure as possible. 4 is too cumbersome, so I'm not going to do 4, but I am going to play 3 of the starting characters. And we're going to talk about those, and at the end of this video, you're going to tell me which characters you want me to play. I'm going to pick one, because there's one that I definitely want in the game. But I'm going to let you pick the other 2. So, first thing we're going to talk about is how we set up the board, basically the world that we're in, because there's a lot going on. And so I am going to have basically 2 distinct areas. I'm going to have the play area, which is right here, and I'm going to keep this up. And what I'm going to do, and I saw somebody else do this on a video, and I wish I could remember who it was so I could give you credit, but I don't. But if you go look for the videos, you'll see which one this was done in. Keep this out at all times and lay the scenario over the top of this, and have the characters and monster cards set to the side right here, and then the player cards will be over to this direction. So you'll have all this, everything will be 1, 2, 3 steps over, because there's a lot of game here, guys. So what you have here is the basic board of Gloomhaven. This is the campaign board where we're going to be venturing forth, and here's the city of Gloomhaven, and you see it is also blowing up here, where you can see up at the top there the big city, and I'll zoom in for you. Now you know that there are locations labeled around the city as well. So we're going to have adventures not only outside the city, but inside the city of Gloomhaven. Things that are going to happen that are going to progress the story. Now in Gloomhaven, it is what they call a legacy game, where we will be adventuring all over this world. Or at least this part of the world of where Gloomhaven, the city, is. And you can see it's got Merchant's Bay and the Lingering Swamp and Stone Road and East Road, Serpent's Kiss River. There's all kinds of stuff. And we have tons and tons of stickers that are going to populate all these areas here and show us what's going on as we're playing. You know, it's going to be really cool. Now, the one thing that I want to do is kind of complete some of the setup steps with you. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do a whole lot of that in this game because I was going to ask you to help me pick the characters. I don't know, maybe that's not the right way to do it. Maybe I'll just pick them, and I'll let you guys pick. I don't know. I want you guys to have some participation, but I'm not sure where, because I want to get us playing as well. But let's do this. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll just get through this part of the setup, because there's a couple things I want to show you. First thing is, we're going to take some decks. So in the beginning, there's some decks here, and I already got them separated out. So you see here you have the road deck. So we're going to take the top 30 cards of the road deck, and that's going to create a road encounters deck for us. Now, the rest of the cards, you can see there's quite another big stack of them, are going to go into the box and wait for us to say when to add the next set of them in. And those are going to be added in from various events that take place. So I'm just shuffling up this deck, and I'll probably shuffle it more off camera, but just give you an idea, I'm going to do that. And then these ones go back in the box. I'm going to set them aside to go back. And then we do the same thing with this city deck here. We take the city cards and we shuffle the top 30. You see, they're numbered 1 through 30. And we're going to shuffle those up too. And I encourage you not to read ahead, so when you're looking at these, I'm not reading them at all. Um, I'm simply shuffling them up and putting them to the side. I'm not going to read them until I encounter them, which will make it more interesting for all of us. And then we're going to continue to set up. So I think if I pick the characters, it'll go faster. As much as it'd be fun to pick the characters, there's always going to be some level that you guys can engage me on. I want to figure out what you think. Maybe when I level up, I'll ask you guys to help me pick perks and things like that, because I definitely want your help. Anyway, we're going to put these. I'm shuffling up the city cards. We're going to put them aside as well. So those are just going to put them on the table for right now. Then those are going to go away. And that is going to be those two parts of the setup. We got so much more to do. So let's talk about what comes in a character box. Now, this is one of the character boxes. There are 6 that come in the beginning of the game that you could start with. This one happens to be the Scoundrel. You can see that her logo is on the box, and everything's going to stay and keep in this box throughout the game. You have a series of character sheets that help you track your individual character, the perks that they have. You can see that the experience that they have, their name, notes, items. These you get from completing battle objectives, which I'll show you later. And then you also have these deck of cards. These are your ability cards, and these ones I've kept in the plastic here because you don't start with them all. If you look on the character sheet, really the only thing this board does is show you the picture, the round order, track your experience here, track your hit points here, and how many cards you get to start with, or you get to have in the game. Now these cards, this is kind of a crazy thing, because these cards are also a kind of an exhaustion timer for your character, which puts you under some serious time constraints and some serious hand management. So we're only going to start with 9. Now you can choose from the level 1 cards. So here's all the level 1 cards. You get all of those. There are 9 of them. Or I can swap one of them or 2 of them out for these 2 cards which have the X on them. And each of these has an ability, a top and a bottom ability. I'll just show you 2 to give you an example. And in the middle is an initiative count. Get the glare off those. There you go. In the middle you can see an initiative count. The initiative is how fast you go in the round. So the lower the better. Now you're going to play 2 cards each of your turns, and those are going to get either discarded, or in the case of using this ability here, you're going to actually remove it from the scenario. You only get to play it once. And they all have a different range of abilities. They're all focused on the cool things your character class does. So in this case, these are all Scoundrel type cards. The characters play very differently, each one. So let's say I pick these 2 for example, and I pick this one to go first. Now what I could have, you're going to pick a top and a bottom. So a top or a bottom for one card, and then the opposite from the other card. So if I pick the top from here, I'm going to pick the bottom from here, for example. So let's say on my turn, I'm going to move, and then I'm going to attack. So I would play this first. This would be my leading card, which would determine my initiative. It means I'd be going very quickly. I'd move super fast, and then I could play the attack here. Attack, it says add +2 to attack and gain an experience points when targeting an adjacent enemy of your allies. So if an enemy is next to my allies, this single out is a really good attack. Also, if I played the bottom, this gives me an ongoing effect. So this infinity symbol means this is going to continue until it runs out. It says on your next attack targeting enemies adjacent to none of their allies, add +2, and each time I do that, it's going to go until it's over, and then I'm going to lose the card for the scenario. Now, if I play the top part, I don't lose the card. It depends on which ability I play. So that's an example of how the cards work. And we're going to start with 10. I am going to look through the 2 well, actually, she's got 3 X's, the Scoundrel. And we're going to make a character for her. This is definitely one of the characters I have in the game. She's actually kind of tough because her 9 cards limit her. You got to be careful about having her run out and get exhausted during the scenario. But she does have this, and I noticed that none of the 3 of her special cards go out of the game, except for this top one here, this Trickster's Reversal. So got to make sure, because each turn you're losing cards anyway, and the ones that you force out of the game means you have less cards to play as you go on. So anyway, these little tokens here, and I haven't used my copy of the game yet. I'm playing the game with some other folks, and we're using my miniatures because he got the standees, but we're using his copy of the game. So I haven't had to take out any. This is the game in its pristine state. So these are used as markers on things like this. So I'd put a marker here and track it as we go, for example. Now, when we complete battle perks, we're going to get, or battle objectives, for every 3 we complete, we're going to get to mark a perk. Plus, we're also going to get to mark perks as we gain levels. So, and you can see that the level goes up to 9 at 500 experience points. When they reach 9th level, that doesn't change anything, but they're also going to have another set of another thing, which I'll show you a bit later, which is a class objective, a life objective rather, that when they reach that objective or completed it, they retire the character, and it opens up things later in the game. So I'm going to show you just the very bottom of this card. I'm not going to show you which one it is, but it says, you see it says unlock envelope with that symbol on it. So there's an envelope in the box. It has that symbol on it, and we're going to unlock that should we get to the point where, and that's a character envelope, by the way. As I'm looking, I'm looking at the characters. Actually, what is that envelope? That's interesting. I don't know that I see that. I'm looking through my stuff now, and I'm going, hey, I don't see an envelope with that squid thing on it. But I'm going to look anyway, because it's probably in there. I just didn't notice it. But there were 3 envelopes, I believe, in the box, and I'm looking for the one right now. Hold on just a sec. Oh, yeah. It's a sealed character. See, this is a sealed character box. So that's going to open up a character for us later on in the game if we complete that objective. And I didn't show you what it was, so that'll still remain a mystery. So now we also have these battle cards. Now these ones are to augment our deck with. You see that they have the special symbol there. We're not, at the beginning, we're not going to have any of those because we're going to have a set deck. Now this deck here, see, it's got the same symbol that matches these, but this deck here is it's a battle deck. And basically when we're playing, when we're fighting creatures and we take one of these attacks, for example, if I did this single out attack, where I get attack 3, that's 3 damage, and I add +2. I'm then going to draw at random. These are going to be shuffled. I'm going to draw at random one of these cards, and it's going to give me a modifier. That adds some randomness. It's not completely predictable. The cool thing about this deck, unlike using dice, and one of the things I really love about this, is these perks. You see, the Scoundrel perks are different than the other characters' perks. But, for example, with 2 checkboxes, I can add or remove, I can add 2 +1 cards with this special go again. That little thing says pull another card, so I could actually pull 2 of those cards this turn. Those cards, unlike our ability cards, don't run out. You just reshuffle them if you get to the end. And you can see I could add 2 muddle ability cards or add 1 invisibility card with a check mark. So see, as I get these perks, I'm going to be modifying this, which is something you can't do as easily with dice. I love that ability. It's so cool. So in here is a bunch of zeros. Again, we're going to shuffle this. Some 1s, some -1s, a -2. This means you miss altogether, and this means you do double damage. Now, you can get extras of these by getting what they call blessings in town by donating to the church, the temple, and that gives you a blessing. Now, in the beginning, we're not going to have enough money to do that. So, what we do at this stage is we would be picking our characters. I think it's pretty clear. I'm already picking the Scoundrel. The Scoundrel is going to be in the game. Everything but the base abilities you choose, and that would go back into the and the character sheet would go back into the Scoundrel's pouch for later use during but in between scenarios. But for right now, we're just going to pick. I'm going to go through and see if I want to take either any of these in lieu of something else. It's quite a hefty decision. I'll probably just play with the base card so I can show you what that looks like. But let me think about that. So here's an example of a possible swap, and I don't know that I'm going to do it, but I just want to show you this for the sake of discussion. So this is one of the X cards that I could swap out to one of these ones. Now, later on, I'm going to get more of these cards to add in my deck as I gain levels, but I wanted to show you this specifically because of the effects. So you have, on this card, it says attack 2. It's a range 3 attack, and it has target 2, and it gains you 1 experience. That's pretty cool, and does loot 2. Now, what loot does means, this would mean you pick up all the loot within 2 of you. But, however, this one has a range attack of 3 with a range of 4, so it's better. And these little green dots mean that these can be enhanced. Yes, the cards can even be enhanced. It's crazy. And then it's got a higher initiative, but it's got move 4, and you can see that it says loot every hex you enter with this action. So you could do some crazy looting by swapping these out. These ones tend to be more situational like that, though, where this one is more generic. However, the thing I like about this is, especially early on, is it gives me experience. So I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to show you so that you could see what the differences are. I think we're going to stick with the basic decks for this scenario, just for our characters. We'll filter in some of these more unique cards later on, but that just, again, gives you a really good idea of what the differences are in the cards, and a lot of the amazingly deep tactical decisions you get to make. Now that I've made that call, everything else plus the 3 cards these 3 cards with the X's on them, are going back into the pouch for the scoundrel, and we get to put the scoundrel away. I'm not going to go into this level of detail on every single one of these characters. I just want to do it on the first one to show you how all this is going to work. So basically everything's going to go back in the box except for the character sheet, the tokens, and the little tokens that we have, which are these to track things, and the starting 9 cards that she gets when she starts the game. So this is basically how this is going to look for us, guys. When we have that, we're going to have her deck here, her cards here. When we discard a card, it's going to go here. When we lose a card, meaning out of the scenario, it's going to go here. And if we have any active cards, they will be above the character. I'm going to stagger the characters up. Now we got to look at the other characters that we have and see what we want to do here. Now these are the other 5 character boxes, and I'm going to tell you right now that in the game I'm playing in, I am actually playing this guy, which is the Brute. And I do think he is essential to the game because he's the fighter of the group, and I'll show you him. This is the Brute. He's actually an Inox, which is their race. I believe it's pronounced Inox, the race that they are. By the way, there is a story here, and I will read this before we begin play. So I do think this is going to be one of our other characters. Now I definitely want to pick characters that we didn't have in my other scenario. So since I'm only playing 3, I'm probably going to pick between these 2, because these 2, the Tinker and the Craighheart, are both in the game. But I do think we need a real fighter, so I would have to go between the Craighheart and the Brute. And the Brute, the Craighheart, he does, and I'll show you him too, he does a lot of area effect damage, which actually avoids their shields, which might be more useful than the Brute. But the Brute is the baseline fighter. You notice that he has 1 more card accessible to him than the Rogue does, or the Scoundrel. So that is a consideration for us. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking. So we could do that one, or we could, let me look at the Craighheart too. I'll show you the Craighheart. Now, the Craighheart he's a big dude. He's like a big, beastly, elemental type guy. He does do a lot of potential damage. And this is him right here. You can see I haven't even punched the side parts out of this board yet. But that's the Craighheart right there. You can see that he's got 11 cards, so he's even a little more robust in ability to weather damage or weather fatigue rather than the Brute. But the Craighheart's really good. So between the fighters, I'm debating on them. I'm not going to play the Tinker because I've seen the Tinker played a bunch of times. He's also in the other game. So it's going to be between this character here, the Spellweaver, who I have not played, which might be interesting. I mean, you've seen her played, really. Or the Mind Thief, which is another interesting character. Okay, so while I was breaking there, I made a quick decision about something. And I think what I'm going to do is take characters that I did not play. So I have not playing. While the Craighheart is in our game that we're playing, I'm going to play him because I'm not playing him. I am playing the Brute that I showed you. So we're not going to have the Brute. We're going to have the Craighheart in this game. And then it's really going to come down to the Mind Thief or the Spellweaver, of which neither I've seen in game so far. So the Mind Thief is so unique. I couldn't make this now. There is a solo variant in this that actually makes things a little tougher. And the reason it does that is because you know all the initiative scores, right? And part of the challenge in playing with other people is you don't know what their initiative is. They cannot tell you. They can tell you that they're going quickly or slowly, but you can't say, I'm going to go late in the round. You can say that, but you can't say, I'm on 67, and here's what I'm going to do. So it adds a challenge to the game, which in the rules means you kind of beef up the game a little bit, but we're not going to do that because I'm going to be running 3 separate characters, so it's a trade-off, I think, on the challenge. So based on that, I'm debating. Now the Spellweaver, I think, is another damage dealer. The Mind Thief is a very different character. Let me show you the Mind Thief's card. Very interesting looking character right there. Looks like a little creature. I don't know what race he is. He's a vermling, like a rat type guy. But he's got 10 cards. I think we're going to do that. We're going to go crazy here. We're going to go crazy. And we're going to do the Scoundrel, the Craighheart, and the Mind Thief. I have not seen that done before. And again, I'm not going to go through each one. We're going to take the basic cards of each one. I'm not going to take any of the special cards, especially for these. Like, I kind of know the Scoundrel, and I definitely know the Brute, so I could have taken some of their special X cards from that, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to play with these characters. Now, the one thing I will tell you is, for example, the next thing that happens in this is we're going to get our cards. Now, this is where it's going to get a little spoilery because I'm about to share something with you. And I think I'm going to make your character, the one that we're tracking in that level of depth, the Scoundrel, the one that I first showed you. And so what we're going to do is we're going to shuffle this deck up here, and we're going to draw 2 cards. And we're going to, out of those 2 cards, we're going to get to pick one. This is our Scoundrel's life goal. This card will actually go into the box with the Scoundrel and will be a part of our Scoundrel's character throughout the history of the character's life cycle. And that is really a cool thing, I think. So anyway, so you're going to see those, but you're not going to see the ones for the Mind Thief or the Cragheart, because sometimes, while there's no traitor mechanic in this game, there's no bad guy. We are mercenaries. We are not here to necessarily help each other cooperatively, in the sense that we have our own goals and objectives we want to achieve. That doesn't mean we don't help each other, because we're all on the same missions and trying to accomplish the same mission, but we're not trying to be altruistic and help each other necessarily, trying to make money and be mercenaries. So I'm going to draw 1, and then I'll reach deep down in and draw a second one and see what we get. Okay, spoiler alert, you're going to see what these 2 cards are. If you don't want to, stop now. I'm going to do a countdown. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we get Vengeance. Okay, this is a life goal. When you close your eyes, you can still see the two of you as children happily at play. When you open your eyes, however, all you see is your best friend dead. The guards claim it was an accident, but you know different. The guilty must be found, and vengeance must be exacted. Sometimes blood begets blood. Complete 5 scenarios in Gloomhaven, then unlock Investigation, Scenario 57, and follow it to its conclusion. It says Unlock Envelope X. Man, that might be a really cool one to do, especially for the Scoundrel, but let's see what the other one is. Aberrant Slayer. Since birth, you have heard the story of a time long since past when demons roamed the earth and preyed upon the weak. Your ancestors drove them back. You always thought this was just a story until now. Demons are real, and it falls to you to continue the fight. Kill 2 flame demons, 2 frost demons, 2... Okay, now, I think we're going to do this one, Vengeance. We're going to do Vengeance. So that is going to be her battle card. Now, I'm not going to put that next one back in yet, because we would have shuffled and dealt all these out, so that one would not go to necessarily another player. Okay, so now we know that our Scoundrel is out for vengeance for the loss of her best friend. So we do have to name our Scoundrel and do that, but we'll do that later. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to get the other characters set up, and we're going to continue on with our setup of the game. Okay, next in what we're going to do, we named our characters. I took the Vermling, I named him Skeeve, because he's kind of some right guy. Got the human Scoundrel, I named her Jewel, and our Savis Cragheart, I named him Midas. Sounded right, appropriate for some reason. And we also have a party sheet. This party sheet tracks our reputation, the reputation of our group, the location we're at, any achievements we've gotten, any of that good sort of stuff. And I named it the Mystic Eye Warband because that made sense to me. And that is going to be the setup of our characters. The only thing I really have left to do is perhaps read to you the character bios of each of the characters that we have. And I'm not going to keep these record sheets out. There's really no reason to during gameplay until we record experience and things like that at the end of the game. So let's read the story of our Scoundrel Jewel. It says, humans are by far the most dominant of the races, even though most of the characters are not human. Spreading across the continent like locust, erecting extravagant cities and disturbing slumbering forces they can never hope to understand. The human society is one of rules and regulations, but also one of great diversity. Due to their intense curiosity and relentless nature, humans can find themselves walking almost any path imaginable, from the obscenely wealthy noble to the unappreciated tavern cook, from the blacksmith forging rugged weapons to the corrupted pursuant of dark magics. It is natural, then, that while many humans work to build up complex and constricting bureaucratic societies, there are those who reject such societies or even work to tear them down. Scoundrels are amongst this second type. Wholly unscrupulous and self-serving, scoundrels operate under the assumption that everything in the world is theirs to take, and they will do whatever is necessary to do the taking. Such an attitude manifests itself in combat through a vicious opportunism unseen in any other culture. So now you know that she is also out for vengeance. So there's a little more to her than just the fact she's an unscrupulous rogue that has no moral compass. But we'll see. And then you got the Savis Cragheart Midas. The Savis value power above all else. The severe and exclusionary race has rocky, uneven skin except for their chests, which appear as smooth, transparent glass. Beneath the surface of that glass is the manifestation of their power, energy, course, Energy cores fashioned from the elements. They have mastered ice, fire, air, and earth. That's pretty cool, right? Before a Savas masters at least one of these elements and obtains its power as their own, they are considered to be nothing. Thus, from an early age, Savas children study feverishly to gain mastery over a single element, typically spending 20 years of devoted effort to do so. Some Savas have been known to live among other races using their elemental mastery in one form or another, but this is largely frowned upon by the majority of the Savas as a base and primitive way to live. There are many Savas who never attain mastery of an element and are exiled from society, having no choice but to live among the other races or in solitude. Before a Cragheart is exiled, however, they earn their name by having their chest cavity marred and shattered, forever reminding them of their inadequacy. But Craghearts are not without their strengths. Even with no control or mastery, they still have an affinity for their native earth and can display great feats of strength with their rocky stature. Okay, that's our guy Cragheart. He has basically been driven out from his society because he did not master one of the elements and is now a mercenary. The Vermling Mind Thief. Vermlings are scavenging animalistic race. They feed off the flesh of the dead, and when they can't find any of that, they are more than happy to do the killing themselves with crude knives and arrows. They are primitive and weak-willed, easily controlled by more powerful races. With the right combination of pandering and intimidation. Left to their own devices, Vermlings typically form hunting packs and spend their short lives fulfilling basic needs. Some Vermlings do make their way into human society, but they are universally shunned and feared in such settings, forced to live in the dark alleys and feed off scraps. Often, city-dwelling Vermlings will flee to the sewers to escape harassment. There, without their pack to connect with, Vermlings will form strong bonds with the massive rat population. Communication with such a large number of creatures can strain one's mind, though. Where most Vermlings fail, some rise to the challenge and hone powerful psychic abilities to control the swarms. So-called mind thieves make terrifying opponents through the use of psychic assault, sharp blades, and swarms of teeny teeth. That is our Vermling Mind Thief, Skeeve. We'll see how Skeeve does in this adventure. This is going to be a good one, guys. Now, that is it for our character setup. So, next thing we're going to talk about is the setup of our scenario, because our characters are ready to go, except for one thing, which will become part of the scenario setup. Take it back. There is one more thing that we have to do. We have to buy some stuff. Now, each character starts the game with 30 gold, and there is a list of suggested items from the item deck. I'm going to actually use that list, but I'm going to show you all the items that are available. At the beginning of the game, we have these 14 items that are available to be purchased in Gloomhaven. We each start with 30 gold, and you can see the value cost of that item there, and each item, all the items do different things. Now, there's suggested starting items for our characters. We're going to do that just to make things go more quickly. So, for example, we're going to start with our our Mind Thief. We're going to get a Poison Dagger. So where is the Poison Dagger? So here's a Poison Dagger, and what does it do? Now this gets tapped. It can be when you do a long rest, you can recover it, and I'll tell you how that works when we're playing. It says during your melee attack, add poison to a single attack. So that's going to be one of the items for our Mind Thief, and then the second item for our Mind Thief is a minor stamina potion, which is right here. It says during your turn, recover up to 2 of your discarded cards. That is really good. That's without having to rest, so that's very powerful. And then for our Scoundrel, it says Leather Armor. So here's what Leather Armor does. It says when attacked, the attacker gains a disadvantage on the attack. Now what that means is he's going to draw 2 of those combat cards I showed you and pick the worst of the 2. And then the second thing that person, the Scoundrel is going to take is also a minor stamina potion. Actually, another minor stamina potion. So that's going to be our Scoundrel. And then our Cragheart is going to take a Warhammer, which is 30. It says during your melee attack, add stun to the entire attack action, and it goes away after it's used. In other words, our Craghammer is so strong he breaks it. Now the rest of those items are going to go back in the box, and that's going to be the end of our player setup. So the last thing we do in this before we set up the actual scenario is we get a new location. So I'm going to read the opening for you, and then we're going to get going. It says, now, spoiler alert, here's the first big spoiler. I'm starting to spoil the story. It says, everyone needs to eat. Whatever your reason for coming to Gloomhaven, out here on the edge of the world, that simple fact is never going to change. A mercenary can't fight on an empty stomach. So when Jexera, a Valrath woman wearing a red cloak and enough gold to keep you fed for a decade, approaches you and the Sleeping Lion and offers to pay you 10 gold coins to track down a thief and retrieve some stolen goods? Well, seems like a good excuse, and a good an excuse as any to sober up and start paying off your tab. This thief has taken some important documents, says the red-skinned merchant, her tail whipping about in agitation. I don't care what you do to him. Just bring him back. Bring back what is mine. Based on Jekara's description, it was easy enough to knock around a few alley thugs and get a location of the thief's hideout. You don't find yourself as a mercenary way out in Gloomhaven without knowing how to crack a few skulls. So, your target is in the Black Burrow. Sounds like a lovely place. Okay, we're going to get a new location, the Black Burrow. It's going to be location 1. It's going to be on G10. The board is segmented so you can find that. Let's go do that, and then we're going to also get our first global achievement, which is going to be militaristic. Okay, let me find the sticker sheets and get that out. So here is the sticker for Black Burrow. We're going to go take a look at where that goes. Okay, so you can see that it lines up pretty nicely. Sorry, I bumped the camera. Lines up pretty nicely with this, so you can get it centered pretty carefully. I'm not going to be too crazy. I'm just going to get it on there. And there is the Black Burrow, our first location up from the city where we will be traveling. And then the next thing we do is we find the global achievement called militaristic, which is right here, city rule. Sorry, let me back that up. City rule militaristic. So we're going to take that off of here, and that is going to go on our board where it belongs, which is going to be right here. This is the first global achievement. City rule militaristic, that is up at the top, right there, and then you can see the global achievements as we go across. Now I'm going to mark those on our party sheet on the back just so I keep track in case I want to play another scenario with some people. We can start from the beginning and pretend these stickers weren't put on the board, but they are for now. Now we're going to go to the scenario setup. I'm going to set that scenario up and then I'm going to end our play session. Okay, so this is the basic setup of our starting scenario as we enter the Black Burrow. We're going to be facing, now our characters are going to start here. I haven't placed them out yet, but our characters are going to start there. We're going to be facing off against, in a 3-player game, the difficulty is based on 2 factors. One is the scenario level, and also you can ratchet up the difficulty from easy to very hard. We're going to play on normal, but we're also going to play with 3 characters. With 3 characters, there are 3 regular bandits framing each side of the door. This is a standee for what they look like. They basically are bandits with shields. This is number 5, by the way, and they're numbered, so you can easily keep track of their health. Now, we also have a special AI deck for the guards, and just to give you an example of one of those, and I'll shuffle it up afterwards. When we draw this, it's going to give us their initiative, a special ability, their attack, and any special effects. Now, in this case, for example, if I drew this one first, we'd be in pretty good shape because none of the guards are actually move, and they're going to go very early. So they won't get to attack. Now this one also says we draw a second card, so we would draw another one and see what happens there. That would be a bad start, but that's just an example. Yeah, and that symbol, this symbol means we draw another card. So basically, that I'm going to shuffle this up because we don't want that card to come out first. We also then have a monster AI deck, or monster combat deck, which is this one here. You can tell by the M in the corner, and it's the same thing as our player decks, kind of, except it might be made up of some different things. And we'll go over that as we play, and you'll see how all that pans out. It's very interesting. Down here you see our elemental infusion track. Again, there's a lot going on. Now, I don't need a round tracker in this because this particular scenario does not have a time limit. The time limit is more governed and managed by our hand of cards rather than the timer itself on the scenario. So I got to do a lot more shuffling on this. I'll do that off camera. But as we use some abilities, for example, the Craig Hart, some of his abilities infuse. Let me find one. This one infuses earth magic, so that would put this up to strong. And then if we don't use it, now he can't use it immediately, someone else can though. It'll go to waning, and then if it's not used to fuel another ability, it'll go inert, and then we'll have to recharge it again. Just to give an example, so that can be another variable. And last but not least, we have our bandits. Now I did choose, it's a level 1 scenario with a difficulty of normal, which means that the monster levels are 1. And that's reflected here. Now I can pull this out and so you can see the monster level 2s right here. It's going to change their stats. So these are the bandit guards. You can see that they have a regular guard. Now we have no elites. This other side is for the elites. There's no elites in this first room with 3 characters. We have a health of 6, a movement of 3, base movement of 3, a base attack of 2, and no ranged attacks. So they are straight up fighters. And now the reason that this is quadranted that way is because we're going to be able to do, I'm going to make sure It should have 1 through 6 here. This is going to represent which one's taking damage, etc., or has a status effect on them. Now, we don't know until we open this door here what's in the rest of the burrow, and that is how we're going to start our game. When we start our session, our playthrough session, I will read the storyline of the scenario. We will have our characters in place and set up, ready to go, and we will start our very first campaign session of Gloomhaven. So get ready, guys. It's going to be wild. Now I'm going to tell you full of spoilers. I said it again, but also this is a rather complicated game, so I may make a few errors along the way. I'm going to try not to, but there's a lot going on in the game between our motive card. Oh, there's one more thing I have to do. Actually, see, I almost forgot something, but it isn't critical. But each character also gets what they call a battle card. I'll get those out for us. That basically give us something to achieve during this scenario that will give us check marks toward our perks. And I'll show you the ones I'm going to draw 2 for each character. And again, these are something you don't relate to the other players. And then the scoundrel will show what the scoundrels are. So the first 2 I'm going to draw here. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I just drew out 6. These are going to be the scoundrels here. So she has Hoarder, loot 5 or more money tokens during the scenario, or loot a treasure overlay tile from the scenario. I think this one's going to be easier. So she's going to take the Hoarder. That's going to be her goal for this particular scenario. She's going to try and collect a lot of loot, and then I'll look at the others and decide what they're going to get. But you're not going to know what they are until after they achieve them. Okay, now we're truly ready to start. So when we get back to this adventure, we will be starting our very first scenario of Gloomhaven against these bandits. It's going to be pretty wild. Now, this is a scenario-based game, so there are literally, I think, 96 scenarios that you can play through. It's a lot of stuff, so it'll be crazy, but it's going to be fun. So, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the subscriptions. I can't wait to get this started for you. It's going to be exciting, and we will talk to you next time. So look forward to the next episode of this. It should be coming very soon. Talk to you later.